Welcome, Neil Shah,
Thank you,
Wilson
Rohit.
Estate Attorney. Great to have you back with us again.
Great to be back. Thank you.
Now, I said the topic will be exit strategies for your business, but before we get into the exit part of it, which is goodbye,
Right.
I want to talk about the various forms of businesses that one gets into.
Sure.
And let's talk about it in the context of a small business. What are the types of business entities a small business encompasses or embodies?
I think it's important when you're at the initial phases, and sometimes I call that the Starbucks phase. You know, you're a couple of friends, or maybe you're by yourself at Starbucks and you're brainstorming about these sort of businesses, to start with the end in mind. And it's okay not to be 100% certain what that end is going to look like, but start with some end in mind. And what I'm saying is, look, there's going to be some folks who are going to start an IT company. And for the IT company, the end in mind might very well be, I'm going to go public at some point. For somebody who's starting a professional practice, like a law practice or a medical practice or an accounting practice, the end in mind might be, well, I'm going to have some junior partners, and the junior partners are going to buy me out. For somebody who's starting a real estate business, it might be, well, I'm going to have this empire of 15, 20 properties that are going to provide me rental income. So it's important to start with that end in mind, because whatever structure you choose today should suit that end. So for example, if I'm going to start a real estate business and I'm going to be actually starting buying all these properties, and the idea is when I retire I'll live off the rental income, well, maybe having a good structure where you have multiple LLCs, limited liability companies, and each property will be owned by its own LLC. If you're starting a professional practice, and the idea is I'm going to have these partners that are going to eventually be my successors and buy out my business, well, then I want to make sure I have strong retention strategies for these junior partners. And if I have an IT business, and for that professional practice, you might choose an LLC, you might choose a professional corporation, you might choose a regular corporation, not a professional corporation. And then for the IT business owner who has aspirations to go public, or has aspirations of taking angel investing or something like that, you might actually have an entity that allows you to have different classes of stock. And in that case, you might be looking at a C corporation and not an S corporation. It's important to get the advice of the attorney, the accountant, and in some cases the business advisor.
So most people, though, when you start a business, you think about, hey, I'm going to get into business. You don't think of an end. You don't think of you're exiting it, you know, because most of the time you're a young person actually that's ambitious and wants to get into something on their own, or you might have left a job because you were frustrated and fed up, and decided you'd go it your own and become a millionaire yourself. So I want you to put into context the importance of why it is important to think of an end when you haven't even begun yet. Why is it important to do that?
That's important because, look, Michael Gerber has this book called The E-Myth. And the E-Myth refers to the entrepreneurial myth. And I believe that the myth is a lot of people will start businesses because they have aspirations to do well in the community, and they want to just have a tremendous impact on an industry. And I don't doubt that many people start businesses for that reason. But what Gerber says is that a lot of people, in fact, started as an entrepreneurial seizure, because they're so upset with a boss or a manager, or there's certain circumstances that they just one day decide, I'm doing it on my own, and they hang out a shingle, or they put out a sign, or they put up a website, and they say, look, I'm now in business itself. And very little planning goes into effect. And what happens many times is people in that space will actually have started painting themselves into a corner. They painted themselves into a corner because maybe they signed a lease for their business, and now they've got a personal guarantee on that lease, whereas maybe they could have negotiated that out. Or maybe they started doing business under their personal name, and they didn't really think about transferring things over to a corporation or an LLC, and now they have to move all that stuff over. Or maybe they didn't have employment agreements in place or the right insurances in place, and now they've jeopardized their individual assets as a result of their business activities. Which is why I say it's important to have an end in mind, even if you decide you're going to change what that is. The company that decides that they might go public 20 years from now doesn't necessarily have to go public, but at least you want to make sure you have the right mechanisms in place so that if that's the path you choose, you at least have set yourself up from a groundwork perspective.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's get into the exit strategies for a business, not just small, but even big. I'd like to see your thoughts on that and what you think.
Certainly.
Our guest is Neil Shah. He's a Wilson Estates attorney. We're talking about exit planning for businesses, particularly small businesses. We'll be right back.